In the aftermath of high-tech coronavirus dystopia, we face real and hard choices between investing in humans and investing in technology. Post-COVID times emergence Green New Deal outset, as it was recently exposed by Naomi Klein, underlining pandemic shock doctrine as the model for highly profitable, app-driven, gig-fueled, no-touch future. It's a realm in which our every move, our every word, our every relationship is trackable, traceable, and data mineable by unprecedented collaborations between government and tech giants. While personal data is continually incorporated without transparency into privatized datasets for machine learning, data-centric rationality, as Paula Duarte argues, should be understood as an expression of the coloniality of power. As Klein points out, integration of government with a handful of Silicon Valley giants, with public schools, hospitals, doctors' offices, police, all outsourcing at high cost many of their core functions to private tech companies, technological innovation remained in line with the same productivist pattern of disruption and expansion. To put it plainly in Klein words, the price tag for all those shiny gadgets will be mass teacher layoffs and hospital closures. Are citizens included in the process of such decision making?
Well, the democracy is implying informed and educated active citizens for support in the decision-making process. As key competence in digital age, how does media information literacy respond to democratic deficit, which is obviously occurring as we speak? Should this be a trigger to ask ourselves right questions on how do we resist education for media information literacy taking self-disruptive manner for pleasing technological innovations? The idea of disruptive innovation coined by Clayton Christensen stands for the tech capitalism most popular buzzword. Its function is to sustain the myth that business geniuses are creating society's wealth. We are to see programs for media information literacy education as strategic policy in pursuing growth in new market. Platform monetization of information asymmetry has turned capitalism into a neo-feudalist regime of behavior commodification and control. As most of the media information literacy trainings avoid focus on the role of institutions and tech platforms, insisting on individual responsibilities labeled as civic competencies, prevent divulgement of operative strategies of power. For most of its early life, the word innovation was pejorative, used to denounce false prophets and political dissidents. Thomas Hobbes used innovator in the 17th century as synonym for the vain conspirator, a false prophet. The innovation as profit-making insight of technological visionary mystifies individual creativity, reversing one's deviant and deceitful connotation. Now praised as visionary concept, creativity turned to profit, imagination, improvisation, and managerial skills, is exactly what education for media and information literacy should avoid, to become a commodity failing down to entrepreneurial language of global techno-capitalism. Let us face the plain and painful truth as the essence of capitalism is self-disruption. Media information literacy should challenge it in its core.
By focusing on systems more than epistemic disruption, mutation in knowledge, we are avoiding perspective of the New Deal on data that now know everything. Digital technologies don't provide just new way of storing, organizing, analyzing, or presenting the human record, but are involved in the centering of the human, and with it the very idea of human encompassed by artificial intelligence, augmented reality, bioscience, robotics, social computing, machine learning, digital conditioning, and finally, contactless society. Advocates of digital tools claim revolutionary impact of technology associating progress with disruptive business model. As Shoshana Zuboff puts it, once we thought of digital services as free, But now surveillance capitalists think of us as free. In other words, how to emancipate ourselves from data-centric view of the world. Long before the COVID-19 swept the globe, we already hid behind screens, we became digital. Intelligent on-life design goes along with the widely adopted policies to contain the COVID-19 outbreak, self-isolation, dismantling of social bonds, and the certification of common spaces. The model of autonomy, once independence from external agents, seems to have found ally for its ultimate realization in the form of cold totalitarianism, as Franco Biffa Berardi puts it, accepted and enhanced as digital salvation. Given to the algorithmic automation of attention, our cognitive activity, memory, language, imagination, has been accelerated by the insertion of machines into the social existence and layers of our affective being. Are we then in need to de-digitalize realms of social and civic life?
Questions we should be asking is, will media information literacy help in dismantling insecurity generating algorithms in all of their forms, from biometric tracking in public and workplaces to behavioral targeting by advertisers, political actors, and foreign countries? As we are witnessing a massive experiment in remote learning, it will be important to ask, will that technology be subject to the disciplines by democracy and public oversight and regulation, without asking critical questions that will shape our lives for decades to come? For example, Naomi Klein is raising some interesting questions. If we are indeed seeing how critical digital connectivity is in times of crisis, should those networks and our data really be in the hands of private players like Google, Amazon, and Apple? If public funds are paying for so much of it, should the public also own and control it? If the internet is essential for so much in our lives, as it clearly is, should it be treated as non-profit public utility? With the erosion or retreat of state commitments, the public failure occurs when instruments of the state cannot satisfy public needs and deliver service effectively. This failure occurs not necessarily because the state is the inappropriate agent to solve the particular problem. It may occur when the public sector has been intentionally dismantled, degraded, or underfunded, while expectations for its performance remain high. The role of the state, in line with social contract theory, is to be continuously re-examined. We have already seen that physical, social, and epistemological insecurity, only to name a few, reasons for arguing for renegotiating social contract, since current one is obviously outdated. We need social contract 2.0. Furthermore, more troubling is the fact that free will as the essence of democracy is questionable, since our democracy choices are obviously determined by some 5,000 data points generated by ourselves unconsciously through cyber behavior and data gathering environment. The request for the new social contract, digital social contract, between people and the big tech companies should ensure equal distribution of wealth, the universal rights and freedoms, and the demystification of power pyramid in digital feudalism. A common citizen in democratic society has substituted his role of sovereign in the reinforced digital society to 3C: customer, consumer, commodity. How do we see government by the people, for the people?
In 2010, in his influential book, You Are Not a Gadget, tech guru Jaron Lanier observed the emergence of peasants and lords of the internet. A handful of tech companies have become ever richer and more extractive, turning their owners into billionaires. on the basis of the cheap labor of their workers, the free labor of their users, and the tax breaks bestowed on them by cities desperate to attract jobs. To continue on this, Jody Dean used the term neo-feudalism to name tendencies associated with extreme inequality, generalized precarity, monopoly power, and changes at the level of the state. The extractive dimension of network technologies is now pervasive, intrusive, and unavoidable. The present is not literally an era of peasants and lords, but it lets us understand the primary political conflict as arising out of neoliberalism. If labor struggles under the capitalism prioritize the point of production, under neo-feudalism they occur at the point of service. Viewing contemporary capitalism in terms of its feudalizing tendencies, Jody Dean illuminates a new socio-economic structure with four interlocking features: parcellated sovereignty, new lords and peasants, hinterlandization, and catastrophism. Parcellated sovereignty stands for the fact that nation-states promote and protect specific private companies. Citizen-states relate to Apple, Amazon, Microsoft, Facebook, and Google as if these corporations were themselves sovereign states, negotiating with, trying to attract, and cooperating with them on their terms. New lords and peasants stands for the digital platforms as the new watermills, their billionaire owners as the new lords, and their thousands of workers and billions of users as the new peasants. The tech giants are extractive, we are data. Hinterlandization means that city gets richer and more people become homeless. Moreover, citizens under the condition of technological unemployment lose general capacity to reproduce the basic conditions of livable life. And finally, catastrophism. Since capitalism is an insecurity machine, as Asa Taylor puts it, neo-feudal divide demonstrates overwhelming sense of freedom incompatible with democracy. Following this framework of forensics of exploitation, as Kate Crawford and Vladon Joller named it in their essay from 2018, in which they mapped the complexity of the 21st century supply chain, drawing out the connections between resources, labor, and data extraction that inevitably goes back to traditional frameworks of exploitation. According to these authors, we should face with the less visible threats of the materiality of technological systems. It is to be said, as Jussi Parikka contends, we should try to think of media not from the Marshall McLuhan point of view, in which media are extensions of human senses, but rather as extensions of Earth. When reflecting upon media and technology as geological processes, it enables us to consider forms of exploitation of human and natural resources, concentrations of corporate and geopolitical power, and continual energy consumption. Data extractivism, together with techno-solutionism, as Evgeny Morozov puts it, could be seen as a background theory for Mackenzie Wark's argument in his latest book, The Capital is Dead, in which he examined his radical and visionary arguments of emphasizing asymmetry of information by which tech giants extract more information than they give in services. It argues that it has empowered a new kind of ruling class, a vectoralist class, that owns the means of organizing the means of production. I quote, "Dystopian here may be less the sharing of information than asymmetry of the sharing. The belief system of the ruling tech class, the Californian ideologists, assert that social and political debates about the future have now become meaningless, if not concerned with enforced digital transformation under the umbrella of platform capitalism intermediaries."
Finally, what the Green New Deal invokes is that there there simply won't be any money left over for urgent public priorities, never mind the Green New Deal that our planet urgently needs. Contrary to the popular understanding, there's nothing ideal or immaterial about it. Information only exists when there's a material substrate of matter and energy to store, transmit, and process it. Existence of the brutal extraction economy, citizen-friendly smart businesses, citizens as product in the social spectacle of big data. Without critical insight, citizens will not have much to say on how to pursue sovereignty of technological infrastructure. Yet, neo-feudal hypothesis could help us identify what we want to defend, and education for media and information literacy may be our only long-term shield from ourselves. Media and information literacy theories faces the lack of comprehensive critical internet theory. How can we criticize the future? Is it possible in the first place to articulate alternatives to the present? Does media and information literacy bring clarity to the issue of smart society, when there is a digital fix for every social and political problem? In other words, how to escape the smart fetish. We are in need to develop more collective intelligence about machine intelligence, more public education instead of learning machines, and a regime of knowledge extractivism, since it reinforces old colonial roots. If only to demystify ourselves as disruptive innovation, educators for civic and scholarly investment, we could maybe become post-digital and make media and information literacy new market force by the people, for the people, and enable us to understand the consequences of the digital age and a paradigm with which it is possible to examine and understand this enhancement.
So if we are to become post-digital, we should reject the idea of digital progress and resist the language of new media disruption. It is a state of distancing from global digital networking hype, platform nihilism, as Hert Loving puts it. In subverting the digital narrative that there is no alternative to critical media and information literacy resistance, we should find sobering position away from disruptive futures we are taking to.